I think it's also baked into my DNA, right? My DNA is that we have a choice. We can be part of the problem or we can be part of the solution. That's it. That's our only choices. And if we want to sit on the fence, that's part of the problem. So I can actively be part of the solution. I think that the way to be part of the solution, if you want to elicit change, is to pull people in, not call them out, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I think most people who have followed me for any period of time will know I'm very outspoken about things that really matter to me. So I have no problem.
It's a surprise to the listener, but Shaa is not shy.
If I see something that is really morally unjust, then I will absolutely speak up about it. But on the whole, I feel like it's better to pull people in than call people out. Because when you call people out, you might guilt them into temporary change. But that temporary change is temporary.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Might Help, Can't Hurt, conversations with leaders, doers, and friends. And my leader, doer friend today is Shaa Wasmund, MBE. Now,
that sounds so serious.
I know. No, I gotta ask, because I knew you when you were just Shaa Wasmund. There were no more letters. You were always still a great crossword clue because you had all the vowels. But what was, first off, for people who don't know, i.e. Americans, what is an MBE?
So an MBE isn't like an MBA. It's not like something you go to university to get. It is actually an award from the Queen for my services to business and entrepreneurship. So every year the Queen awards about 60 people out of, I guess, a population of about 65 million, an award for outstanding contribution to particular sectors. And so for me, it was to business and entrepreneurship. So yeah, I'm really proud. I got to take my grandma, who's 95, to Buckingham Palace.
Oh my God, you must have loved that.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing.
Oh, cool. Is it like a graduating class? Like, who were your classmates?
Well, you don't really know because there's so few of you. You don't actually know each other. So we and it's very much like ceremonial. You go in a certain order and you go through a certain process, and you have to curtsy a certain way. And I mean, like really, you have to have training to do this properly. But yeah, it was great. I mean, more than anything, I really enjoyed it because it's nice to be recognized and have the little letters after your name, but really to take my grandma who grew up in the war and lived on a council estate her whole life, has never owned her own home, to take her to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen, that was special for me.
That's amazing. That's super cool. Congratulations. Now, of course, back when I knew you. Now,
Shaa Wasmund without the MBE.
Yes, you were shorter then. When did we first meet? I always try to do this because I know most of my guests. It's quite
funny. I've just seen that Mr. McKenna's joined in the comments, and I actually think I first found out about you firstly through Paul McKenna and then through Jamie Smart. I think that's how it went. Yeah, I do.
No, because I remember having a lunch and being pretty thrilled with the fact that you started your career working for Don King.
Yeah, I did. So I remember you came to visit me. I think my office was near London Bridge at the Leather Market. And so I went to the London School of Economics, did an economics degree. But unlike all of my peers who went to work in the city, I became the world's first and only licensed female boxing manager at the time. And I went on to work with Don King and I put on 25, 28 world title fights. I'm a big boxing fan.
Now I love that. Did they just all take a big brother thing towards you?
Yeah, well, I got to be honest. Some of them thought I was a ring card girl because at 21, it was like, who is this young girl who's in this world and there's just all guys here?
Yeah.
But I think after I proved myself, by proving myself in that very, very not just male dominated, but really truly alpha male dominated world, I don't think you get any more alpha male than boxing. No. You really had to learn how to handle your own. And so I remember this one occasion when I was negotiating with Don King um, over a fighter, and the fight was going to take place in Madison Square Gardens, and we were negotiating all of the flights, all of the ancillaries, because what a lot of people don't realize, just like the music industry, you've got this top line number that you think you're earning, but then when you realize what all the deductions are, you're left with nothing. Right. So I was always conscious when negotiating on behalf of, the boxers that I represented, that everything had to be on top of the purse. So the flights, the accommodation, that wasn't coming out of the purse. That's coming out of the expenses for the promotion. And so we were talking through, who had to fly over from the UK, who were the core team, like the corner man, the trainer, so like 3 of the core team plus me, plus the fighter. So they were going to put the fighter in first class and they were going to put everybody else in economy. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I'm cool with that, Don. Not a problem at all. So this is how it's going to work. If you want to put me in economy with everybody else, then when the fighter gets there, he's your problem and you're going to have to manage him, right? And you're going to have to manage him. And he went silent and he started laughing. He said, just get Shaa a first class ticket, because that is just not worth the headache. And from that point, we just got on really well because he really respected. I wasn't trying to be, I made it a joke, right? I brought humor into it. Humor and humility go such a long way, right? Humor and humility go so far. So I just made a joke out of it. And I was just saying to him, do you want to handle all of the drama that comes with this fighter? Or would you like me to handle it? If you want me to handle it, don't put me in economy, thanks very much. And I'm not paying for my own ticket. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Clara and I, you met Clara just before, our producer, and also, as it happens, my daughter. She and I worked in an orphanage in Laos one summer, and we used the phrase, "How are we going to get through this? Patience and humor." Patience and humor. So often we wanted to get tattoos with words for patience and humor, because it is incredible what it does.
100%. And I especially think that in tense situations, or where there's a lot of ego involved, or where there's a lot of testosterone, or there's a lot of polarization, if you throw humor into the mix, it just like acts as this magic dust that, I don't know, it just diffuses everything.
Yeah. Now, how did you make the journey from boxing promoter to entrepreneur to, I don't know the right, entrepreneur helper, entrepreneur catalyst, entrepreneur booster, whatever it is you do now that's really cool? Because I mean, I've seen you in those roles, but I don't really know the story.
Yeah, so for me, I think it was, at my core, all I've ever really wanted to do is create real financial empowerment for everybody. So I come from a very, very poor upbringing, single parent family, grew up on what we'd call a council estate in the UK, and I guess the projects in the US. So never having anything, like less than nothing. And I just know how many people have helped me along my way to get to where I am. So at my core, it's always been around, how can I create real social mobility? And every step of my journey, I've wanted to try my own way at that point in time to bring as many people up with me as I could. And so my path has been very much following my passions of what I really enjoy and where I feel serve me. And then it got to a point where I reached this place that when I was growing up, I could never have imagined, right? So I have a beautiful multi-million-pound house on a royal park in London. I have another beautiful multi-million-pound house on the beach in Kent. And I don't say that to brag. I say this is somebody who literally, somebody just says that I'm from the ghetto. A true fact. Like, yeah, that's exactly where I'm from. So I share this to say that when you're from that place, you can't really ever imagine getting to a place where you have real financial empowerment, where you have I never had a roof. We never owned our own home. So I've gone from never growing up in a property where we owned our own home to having multiple millions of property assets. And I say it because what happened was I just hit this point where I was just like, I don't know what I'm striving for anymore. Like, where am I supposed to go to from here? Is it just more money? Because that felt hollow. And I realized that for me, it's just about more impact. And how can I serve the entrepreneurs who are coming behind me, and behind me doesn't necessarily mean their start point or their age. It's like they're on a journey that I've been on, and I'm still on a journey. I'll always be on a journey, and there'll always be somebody ahead of me who can help me and pull me along. But for me, I feel like it's my duty, my responsibility, and my privilege to be able to pull as many of those entrepreneurs alongside me. And I have this mission that I want to change what the landscape of success looks like. And, you know, for the most part, in most Western societies, when it comes to privilege, privilege starts by being born a white middle-class male at the front of the line. And what happens if you are not a white middle-class male, you are born progressively further and further behind that start point. So, you know, you might be born white male but poor, and then you might be born white female and maybe middle class, and then you go back and you go back, and the further we go back, whether it's race or it's gender, we have further to go. We have further to go to get to the front of the line. And I want to find ways to help entrepreneurs, because business is my medium. How can I help shorten that gap? And I want to shorten that gap not just for the people who are in business now, but for me, it's about how can I help people create generational wealth? Because generational wealth is where we change the landscape. So to me, generational wealth isn't about buying a Ferrari. If you want to buy a Ferrari, awesome. If that makes you happy and you've worked hard for it, go for it. There's no judgment on that. But what I'm talking about is I want to teach people how to create generational wealth so that their kids get born closer to the front of the line and their kids get born at the front of the line, because that's how you change the landscape. Typically, particularly in British society, those who are financially successful have inherited their wealth through generations. And it's not just wealth that they inherit, it's education, by going to the best schools, by having the best contacts, by leaving school, going to the best universities, leaving the universities, using their contacts that their parents have to open doors for them. And I think that business can be such a wonderful leveler. Business can be such a phenomenal medium to truly help people create social mobility that may not have been afforded to them otherwise.
Now, what you do, the way you do that, because that's an amazing, I mean, that makes total sense and is not the norm. But what's equally not, this is the point in the show where the dogs join in. Happens.
That's okay. Mine's in the other room.
But, you know, so we'll see how long that goes on. But most people who are in that conversation tend to be in that conversation from a place of anger and frustration. Mm-hmm. And as you say, you're in that conversation from a place of humor and humility. Was that a choice? Is that your personality? How did that come about?
I think it's a choice, but I think it's also baked into my DNA, right? My DNA is that we have a choice. We can be part of the problem or we can be part of the solution. That's it. That's our only choices. And if we want to sit on the fence, that's part of the problem. So I can actively be part of the solution. I think that the way to be part of the solution, if you want to elicit change, is to pull people in, not call them out, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I think most people who have followed me for any period of time will know I'm very outspoken about things that really matter to me. So I have no problem.
It's a surprise to the listener, but Shaa is not shy.
You know, if I see something that is really morally unjust, then I will absolutely speak up about it. But on the whole, I feel like it's better to pull people in than call people out. Because when you call people out, you might guilt them into temporary change, but that temporary change is temporary. And by pulling people in and educating people about why we need to shift the dynamics, why we need to change the landscape, why actually changing the landscape is good for all of us, including white men. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, the way I've talked about it is you can get somebody to change at the point of a gun, but when the gun goes away, nothing's changed.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. And so for me, I think I've always been really clear that, you know, there is such a shift that happens in business when business owners learn not just how to make six figures in their business, but actually how to take six figures home. And this is something I talk about, you know, a lot, because you could be running a six-figure business and be taking home $20,000 a year. You could be running a six-figure business and you actually get paid more working at McDonald's. And that's not where the shift happens. The shift happens where you can generate enough income that every month you have a surplus, and that surplus gets invested into creating assets, and those assets create generational wealth, and generational wealth shifts the landscape forever. And that's it. That's my legacy. You know,
I learned that from you. Like, I remember having a conversation with you where I was going through my business figures, and I was kind of embarrassed because I thought I should be further along, but I had a great take home. And you were like, no, that's amazing. And I was like, because I was looking at the other number. And I was going, well, that other number should be higher. And you were going, no, this number's freaking great.
You know, there's in the business world, I'm sure it's in the States because the guy's from the States, that in the business world, there's a real there's a real focus around talking about profit first. So there's a whole focus around talking about profit first accounting, and that's great. But you know what's even better than profit first? Income first. Income into your business, into your family, into your bank account. And I remember that conversation, Michael, because you were beating yourself up saying, well, I think I should be doing more than this. And I'm thinking to myself, you're looking at the wrong number, because there are people who are running multiple seven-figure businesses who are taking home less money than those running six-figure businesses. Now, I looked at what you were taking home and I'm like, that's amazing. That's the figure that you should be focusing on. That's the figure that everybody should be focusing on. I call it sanity metrics instead of vanity metrics, right?
Say that again.
Sanity metrics, not vanity metrics.
I like that. Sanity metrics versus vanity metrics.
We're in a world, Michael, where people get obsessed with how many followers they have and what's their top line turnover number. And I'm like, this doesn't matter. What really matters is, what are you taking home into your family bank account that's going to create security and stability for you, your kids, your future grandkids, as Emma's just said, your quality of life. These are the things that really matter, because the rest of it's vanity metrics. Is being able to say, oh, look at me, look at how many followers I've got, I'm so amazing. You know how many influencers there are on Instagram who have no idea how to monetize that shit? Like,
well, most of the ones I've met. I don't know how many there are total. Yeah.
Like, I literally want to shake them and say, like, wake up. This is not what it's about, right? This is not what it's about. And for me, the reason I'm so passionate about this is because, you know, I've been taking home six figures since I was 21. And I say this because I want people to recognize the impact of that statement. I am not a professional footballer. I do not have a trust fund, and I can't sing for toffee. Therefore, at 21, I didn't have any kind of skill set that would warrant taking home six figures. But I had a mindset that made me take home six figures. And that is where it all starts. It all starts with our mindset. At 21, I didn't have a skill set to justify taking home six figures. But I absolutely had a rock solid mindset that said, I'm worth this, and I'm going to go and find a way to create this. And that's where it really starts. It really, really, really starts by sorting out your mindset. Because when your mindset shifts and you start believing, truly believing, not just thinking, but you really start believing what's possible for you, then all the doors start opening up.
Now, what I know you know, but I'm going to call out, because listening to just the words, it's not necessarily obvious, is that you can change your mindset all day, sit on the sofa, eat bonbons. You will not be taking home six figures.
No, you will not. No, you will not.
So what's the relationship for you between the mindset and going out and doing stuff? So
I've always said that, you know, belief plus action equals results. That's it. It's literally, you know, it is literally that straightforward. It has always been that straightforward for me. I have to have the belief that it's possible. That's my mindset. But I have to follow it up with action, because otherwise it's wishful thinking. It's not mindset, it's wishful thinking. And that's the difference, right? If you sit there just thinking, oh, you're sitting on your couch and you're watching Netflix, eating a tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and your mindset saying, I'm going to get the fittest I've ever been. Good luck with that, because that's not how it works, right?
Yeah, well, at least you can afford the good stuff. I mean, the Ben & Jerry's. I mean,
but the point, you're absolutely right, is the thing is that when your mindset shifts and you believe something, that's the point that you start to go all in, because you have the confidence and the clarity to take real action. When you're not sure, I think it's the difference between an interested decision and a committed decision. So an interested decision is, yeah, I think I could do this. I think I could get fit. I think I could make 6 figures. I think I could take 6 figures home. Not sure how to do it, but you know, I think I could do it. Maybe I'll go figure it out. A committed decision is, I absolutely fundamentally know for sure I can make this shit happen. And now I'm going to go do it. And there's just no gap between the two. So the gap has narrowed to be non-existent. Between the belief and the action, there's no gap. And that is a committed decision. A committed decision is when the action immediately follows the belief, and therefore you create momentum. And when you create momentum, that's when you get the results, right?
Well,
and
so how have you seen somebody make that transition? Because I've heard people say stuff like that. They go on a seminar and they go, I do believe I am a 6-figure and it doesn't change. I've also seen people who never really, and this is just in my experience, who never really seem to believe it and keep being surprised that it's working. So I'm less clear about how that transition happens in my work.
I'll happily unpack that, because I don't do any kind of affirmations. That's definitely not what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And I'm not dissing affirmation. I'm definitely, if that works for you, I'm all about what works for you. Yeah. Keep working it. I don't wake up and say, I'm going to make this, I'm going to do this. I've never done that in my life, not one single time. Yeah. For me, it's about...
It doesn't make for sparkling conversation. I mean, it's very difficult to date with affirmations.
Let me give you an example. If I didn't believe that was possible for me at 21, I would never have put myself in the situation that allowed me to start earning that money. So what allowed me to start earning that money was I actually believed it was possible for me. I didn't think about where I came from. I didn't think about nobody in my family had ever done it. I didn't think that was like 5 times what my mum earned. I just thought, I can do it. So how am I going to do it? So it went from I can do it to how am I going to do it? Right. And in that process, opportunities arose. And now I created those opportunities. I didn't sit there and somebody knocked on my door and said, hey, here you go, Shaa, here's an opportunity. When I started working in boxing, I was 21. And when I negotiated with Chris Eubank, who was the then super middleweight champion of the world.
We used to watch all his fights. We loved him.
Right. So I had to negotiate what my salary was, what my role was, what my commissions were, what my whole package was. And at the start, he thought that he was going to like hire me as a PA and he was going to pay me like £24,000 a year. And I was like, if you want to do that, I'm not your person. This is what I expect. This is what I'm going to deliver. And I was very clear about it. I wanted 10,000 a month. That was my salary. That was my rate, 10 grand a month. And this is what I'm going to do for it. And that was it. And you know, the truth is I worked 24/7 and I over-delivered on every single thing that I was asked to do. I made myself indispensable and I made myself worth at least 5 times what he was actually paying me. I mean, in fact, that's not even true. I immediately, I think it was within 6 weeks, paid him back everything that he was going to pay me for a year, because I got him £150,000 sponsorship deal. And a boxer at that time had never had a sponsorship deal. So I got him 150 grand sponsorship deal with Russell Athletic that wasn't even on his radar. I went out and I pitched it. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was 21. I had no experience in sponsorship. I had no experience in branding. I had no experience in any of it. But I'm going to do it. How do I do it? I just constantly go from, I'm going to do it. How do I do it?
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna harp on this because I've had these conversations with so many people, as I know you have. So if somebody's listening right now and they go, this sounds amazing, but I don't know if I can do it. How am I supposed to get from I don't know if I can do it to I can do it, so that I can start asking how can I do it, so that I can start doing it?
So a couple of things. First thing is you surround yourself with people who feel a similar way. Now, I've been very lucky from around the same period of time. I met some other incredible young entrepreneurs who were setting up their own business. And there was a group of about 5 or 6 of us who came from similar backgrounds. I had more money, but we all believed that we were capable. And what happens is it rubs off on you. Right. And when you're having a down day and they're having an up day, if they're the right people, they bring your day up rather than you bring their day down. So when you're doubting yourself, they're there to remind you just how friggin' amazing you are, and vice versa. So that's one thing. And if you don't have these people in your life right now, which is truthfully the case for most people, you can find great groups online, right? You can find amazing groups online. But you know what I did? I went back to basics. Like at 21, I was reading Napoleon Hill. I was reading Bob Proctor. I was reading, oh my God, David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. That book like just transformed.
Got it on my shelf behind me to this day. That's one of my favorites.
It transformed how I thought. And if you ask how did I do it, that book was massively responsible because it triggered something in my brain that went, there's no point doing anything small. It's going to take you just as much time and effort to do something small as it is to do something big. So just do it big. And so I just changed everything. It was just like, well, that makes so much sense to me. But I went to the classics. I went and read everything. You know, I was a voracious reader. I was very, very selective about who I hung around with, the people in my environment. And so if you're asking me the question, if people are listening to this, how do they go from not being sure if they can do it to knowing they can do it? Practice, and more practice, putting yourself in those positions, but also understanding what it takes. What does it take to make that shift? It's not just reading one book. It might be reading 20 books. It's not just hanging out with one person. It's hanging out with a group of people religiously who up your game. And it's accepting that along the way, things will not always work out. You have to go into this knowing that a lot of the times things are going to fail. You're going to fail. It's not going to work. But you can't win without failing, right? You can't, you just have to know that this is part of the whole journey. It's part of the whole process. So if you can go into this saying, okay, this is where I'm at, and I want to go from where I'm at, knowing I can do this. What does that journey look like? Well, that first journey has to be about acceptance. Along that path, you're going to mess up and you're going to feel like giving up and it's going to feel like it's never going to work. And you just have to know in your core. And if you don't know, you have to just keep reminding yourself, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. Consistency is key. It is key.
What was the name of the fish in the sequel?
Yeah, exactly. Nemo, Finding Nemo. Just keep going. Just keep going.
No, okay. So I keep going here because I just know how helpful this is for people to actually see that it is neither, and we've been talking about actually you do have to do stuff, right? So there's that part. But then there's also a point where you have to actually be willing to also have a life. Now I feel like he was a baby when I first met your boy. Like you did most of this as a single mom.
I did, yeah.
So how?
Okay, so I think that the first thing is, very sadly, my son's dad passed away when he was only 3.5. So I found myself a single parent like overnight. And I'm not going to lie, it's a tough journey. It's a tough journey, whether you're a single mom or a single dad. It's a tough journey.
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to say you share about it beautifully. I mean, I've followed some of it in person, but I follow a lot of it on Facebook. And you talk about it so honestly, but with humor and humility. And it's beautiful. So I just want to put that out.
I appreciate that. And I think it's important because I think that, I'm not the only person who will have gone through this, and I want to also give hope to other people that even in your darkest moments we can find ways through it. But oftentimes one of the hardest things is to actually ask for help, and particularly in the UK I think so many of us are led to believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness, whereas I believe it's a sign of strength. And so I just kept telling myself it's a sign of strength. I'm not interested in all you people telling me it's a sign of weakness. I don't care what you say. I believe it's a sign of strength. So I'm going to keep on asking for help. And the only way I could do what I've done is by asking and receiving help. And so that's why it's also so important for me to pay that forward, pay it back, and be that person for other people. You can't, there's a great African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think the same is true for a business. So, you have a child and a business and you need 2 villages. And I just think for me, partly I felt like I had no choice. I needed to show my son what was possible and what he could do in the world by being an example of what was possible. And then I'll be really honest with you, I hire in help. I haven't cleaned my house since I was 21. I have no intentions of starting. I haven't ironed a shirt since I was like probably 21 too, and I've got no intention of starting. As far as I'm concerned, if I can hire someone to do a job that either I don't enjoy or it doesn't require me, so that I can have my time back to spend with my son, to spend with myself, to spend on my business, not just in my business, to read a book, to write a book, that's money well spent.
Yeah, no, that does make total sense. Now, a couple more things that are occurring, and I could go all day, but I won't. But I want to focus in on a couple of things. I don't know if you've heard, I don't know if you've got COVID over there in Britain, but it's like this big thing here.
I think it's a big thing here. We're still in lockdown.
I know, but as an entrepreneur, do you think the up in the airness of everything makes now a better time to start a business, a worse time, or is that just a terrible question because it doesn't matter what time it is?
I think on the whole, it doesn't really matter what time it is. I think if you want to start something, start something. There's so many people who've made money during a recession, and then other people who use a recession as saying, that's why I'm not going to start a business. The truth is, there is no other time other than now. Now is the time that you have. So now is the time that you should use. And putting that to one side, I actually think coming out of a pandemic is a bloody brilliant time. I'm about to launch a new program called Empowered at the beginning of April. So we're probably about 2 weeks away from launch. And I feel more excited about this than anything I've done in 5 years, because I feel like we've got the right program at the right time for the right reason. And I feel like the energy right now is shifting onto, I'm done. I'm done with feeling overwhelmed. I'm done with not knowing what to do. I'm done with waiting for somebody to come and save me. I'm just going to go save my own damn self.
Yeah. Beautiful. And we'll put links, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With the show. So last two questions. Somebody comes to you and you can tell they're sincere. They really do want to get something started. They really are. They've heard you. They kind of go, okay, I'm going to find people to support me. I'm going to find books to support me. I'm going to find community to support me. But I don't know what to do. Like, where do the ideas come from?
So I think the first thing is to understand that life is a journey. Like, I have had multiple businesses. So this isn't about finding the one thing for the rest of your life. It's about finding the right thing for right now. So if that's the conversation we're going to have, then I'd be like, well, Michael, tell me about the stuff you've done. Tell me about the stuff that you enjoy. Tell me about the work that you've done. Tell me about maybe businesses that you've run previously. What have you loved? What have you hated? Because the thing that I find really challenging in the space that I work in, which is, helping entrepreneurs build online businesses specifically, is seeing people not really even understand how to create the right business model for them. So they're flipping and they're flopping, they're flipping, go, oh, I need to do an online course. No, I need to go do a membership. Oh, no, I need to do a group coaching program. And that's because nobody's really taken the time to unpack, like you're talking, to say, okay, well, 4 questions I ask myself, right? So these are the 4 things I would encourage everybody, right? I would encourage everybody to think about. Number 1, it's going to sound really simple. You've got to ask yourself, who do you want to be, right? Who do you really want to be? Who is the person that you truly want to be?
Now, in terms of answering that, who do I want to be? I want to be
like in your business. I mean, in your business, right? So who do you want to be in your business? Because that has a big implication. So who do you really want to be? How do you really want to show up? Now, let me explain by that. How do I really want to show up? I've decided that this year I'm just showing up as my 100% full authentic self, which means I'm going to talk about all the subjects that are really important to me. I'm going to talk about Black Lives Matter. I'm going to talk about equity. I'm going to talk about equality. I'm going to talk about gender. I'm going to talk about race. I'm going to talk about all the things that make some people feel uncomfortable. But if we don't have these conversations, we're never going to shift the landscape. And in doing that, I know that my medium, I can create the most powerful shift and change, is business. So how do I want to show up? I want to show up as myself. And I want to show up visibly and loudly and proudly. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's okay too. So if your way of showing up is actually, you know what? I'm in a period in my life where I don't want to be on social media. I want to be in the background. I want to create and put stuff out there, but I don't want to be hands-on. There is no right or wrong answer, but there is an answer for you. So who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Next up, third question, who do I want to serve? Get really, really clear on who you want to serve. So I don't want to serve all business owners. I want to serve people who are decisive and committed, and they want to become financially empowered, and they're going to do the work. That's the top level. Now, the secondary level for me is I also want to serve people who are committed to leveling the landscape for everybody, to creating real social mobility. Those are my people, right? Everybody's not for you, and you're not for everybody, and that's okay. And then the fourth question is, how do you want to serve them? And this is really important, because I don't know about you, Michael, but I have, in my years of being in this online space, a similar space to you, but different. I've gone through so many different business models. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I saw somebody going and doing that, and they've just done 7 figures. What the fuck? I need to go do that too. Stop. Think about, how do you want to serve these people? Running a membership is an awesome idea if you don't want to have to show up too much, right? And if you want to have a lot of people paying you a smaller amount of money, that's a great option. On the other hand, if you'd rather have less people, be more hands-on, and have a higher price point, maybe group coaching programs are for you, maybe retreats, maybe a mastermind. There are so many different ways of creating a business model. Figure out what is the right business model for you. What is going to make you happy? Yeah. What is going to make you happy? What is going to make the people that you serve happy? Because it's not a cookie cutter solution. I'm so tired of all the programs that it's like, well, flick this switch and you're going to be a gajillionaire by Monday. Or you only have to do this one thing and you'll be banking 6 figures by Tuesday. Or everybody's told that they have.
That one's true. It's just the one thing is robbing a bank. It's
that's true.
See, I spent the money. I got the book. No, but the thing that I'll say about that, because I think those are brilliant questions, but I think the thing I would add from my experience is, know that your answers will change.
But that's how I started it. Before I said that, I said to you that I don't know about you, Michael, but my business model has shifted all the time. And here's the other thing, that your business model for 2021 might not be your business model for 2023. I do encourage people to make decisions and stick with them for, a decent amount of time, because otherwise you're just spreading yourself too thinly. Yeah. But I think that as you shift, if we say that in life and business, we go through seasons. And by the way, it's not just 4 seasons, then you die. You could go through multiple cycles of seasons, right? Depends on all kinds of things, where you've got kids, young kids, older kids, no kids, whether the kids have gone to school, university, all kinds of things impact on what season you're in. And that season should have something to do with how you want to show up, right? There will be times in my life where I want to take more of a back seat. Yeah. And I want to create a business model that allows me not to be online and not to be fully present like I am right now. However, right now I'm in my spring summer season. Yeah. I plan on blooming and being everywhere.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, last question. It's the last question I ask everybody who comes on the show. I am going to make you Empress of the Universe just for a bit, and I want to know, what will be your first decree for the people? What is your first thing that you decree from on high?
Gosh, you think of all the things that just seem so trite and cliche: world peace, happiness. I think the thing that I would decree is that from this day forwards, everybody is judged by the goodness in their heart and not by the color of their skin, their gender, or their bank account. That would be my decree.
Shaa Wasmund, MBE. It's been a delight. It's really nice to see you.
You too, lovely.